As a New Year's gift to you, I just spent the last 30 days gruelingly analyzing over 1,000 of the most profitable YouTube videos from business owners across the entirety of 2025. I almost gave up about 3 times trying to undertake this massive study, but I'm glad I didn't, because as I'll reveal, the channels making 7+ figures aren't just focusing on adding value or being educational anymore. They're doing something completely different, and I'm gonna break it down from the easiest takeaways to the most effective strategies. And also, as a bonus for sticking around to the end, I'm also gonna break down another brand new study that was done of over 62 billion views. But before I do, this is data-driven content, and I've helped brands and businesses grow on YouTube by following the evidence and removing the guesswork. If that interests you, check out the link in the description. Okay, so before we dive into the findings, you still deserve to actually know how I pulled this off, but I'm not gonna give you a 2-hour tutorial, don't worry. I'm just gonna give you the 60-second rundown. So the first problem that I stumbled across was getting the actual data in the first place. You basically have to pay for certain tools online, and half the time they were just spitting out completely irrelevant videos from niches that I was absolutely not interested in for this study. Days were turning into weeks, cost was adding up, and I was basically just about ready to give up. The second problem was that I couldn't see the thumbnails, nor could I actually organize the data in a way that allows us to look at the top performing videos. But essentially the data started like this, and then I turned it into something where we could actually view it and analyze it. And I also made an algorithm so that I could determine whether it was a notable video because it performed much better than anything else on its channel. Basically, we looked at business owners because these guys are the best at turning views into monetization. So it's probably a pretty strong sign that you should pay attention to it. Okay, so the first thing is called the linguistic lever. Forgive me if I'm just kind of looking at my screen here because I'm looking at my notes. So high-performing videos are all using power words to kind of elicit shock or emotion, combined with superlatives to create natural uniqueness. So examples of this might be brutally honest, or superlatives such as laziest, ultimate, worst, best, right? These are essentially forcing the viewer to choose the video over others because it promises the extreme version of the topic, not just like a good way, but the laziest way. So there's a lot of psychology that goes into it. These words move a title from what I call a level 1 title to a level 3 title. Level 1 being maybe just informational, right? In the age of AI, why is someone going to click on a video that's just about information? They're not. You have to do something that feels quite irresistible, something that AI doesn't do, that only a unique perspective or unique effort can actually pull off. Just like this video that I'm doing right now. Okay, the second win I'm calling the chronology hack, and I'm actually also still using it with this video. So creators and business owners are aggressively jumping on the use of 2026 because it's the new year. What that does is it just creates novelty and urgency. Let me give you some examples. So you could do a beginner insert your industry tutorial for 2026. Maybe it's digital marketing 101 in 2025. Again, they'll use urgency keywords such as before 2030, in 2026, before it's too late. The implied urgency is essentially don't invest until you watch this, or get in early. So it's always pitching yourself as some kind of opportunity. What's interesting is urgency is also being achieved through time stakes. So do this before the market changes rather than limited time offers, right? Roughly 25 to 30% of the top videos used explicit scarcity or urgency, which is crazy. But moving on to tier 2, let's talk about proven frameworks. Now, this is what I call the 3-loop rule, and this is basically essential for making a video that you know significantly increases the chances of people discovering you. The average top performing video opens 2 to 3 curiosity loops in its packaging. What do I mean by packaging? Title and thumbnail. What's crazy is the highest outlier scores confirm a combination of both curiosity and desire. Let me give you an example. So there was a video called The Invisible Company Killing Intel. Intel being a big computing company for those who don't know. The curiosity loop number 1 is how could something bring down a giant company like Intel, which kind of creates this David and Goliath type conflict? Curiosity loop number 2 is, why the hell is it invisible? Why couldn't we see this coming? And curiosity loop number 3 might be, how on earth did they even pull this off? So it's eliciting a bit of a mystery. Okay, the second thing I want to talk about here is the search versus viral trade-off. Listicles seem to be performing with higher consistency and volume, right? They're safe and searchable. For example, 7 boring businesses, 9 AI skills, 15 AI tools. Obviously, everyone's talking about AI at the moment. However, stories seem to be performing with higher viral peaks. In other words, they seem to be gathering more views overall. The conclusion being that listicles are great for authority and search, but stories really can help you get that extra reach. Now for tier 3, these are really high impact strategies. If you didn't already think they were high impact by now, you definitely want to start listening in. I've contemplated whether I share some of this source online because it's stuff that I typically teach to my clients. But you know what? Give it all away for free. And hopefully, if you like this video, you might want to work with me. So this next concept I call the lazy millionaire paradox. Essentially, in all of us, deep down, we want to achieve, right? We want to learn, we want to be entertained, and we typically want to get there with the most efficient route, okay? We're built to evolve. There's a lot of psychology that goes into this. There is an incredibly high correlation between high view counts and titles that optimize for 4 elements of the value equation. Notably, there is a significant trend of framing business success as boring or lazy. So what are these 4 elements that I'm talking about? The first is increasing the dream outcome, right? This could be status, this could be money, this could be whatever. If you really look into psychology, it becomes quite obvious what all videos come back to when you click on them. The second one is increased perceived likelihood, right? Maybe you are telling me you studied 1,000 plus of the most profitable YouTube videos for business owners in 2025, right? Like, increasing your proof here is just so essential because you're giving the audience a reason to trust you. The third one here is decreased time value. Why achieve an outcome that might take an entire year when you can do it and learn it in the next 58 seconds, right? That's why we're seeing those hooks perform really well at the moment. The last one is decreased effort and sacrifice. So kind of laziness and simplicity. We could give you a really complicated video that truly breaks down a really complicated topic that will help someone get to a result. But if you just actually overload people with too much information, guess what? They'd actually just rather click off. So simplicity is important. And if you can make something stupidly simple, or like I'm 5 years old, explain it like I'm 5, whatever it may be, people are just going to gravitate towards it more because you're making it, again, increasing the chances of them achieving the outcome faster, better, sooner. That's kind of what we're all optimized for. Okay, this next one I absolutely love. I definitely think sometimes people are using it the wrong way, but what I am talking about is contrarian thinking. Take Dan Martell, for example. Most people believe you have to work an 80-hour work week in order to be a very successful person. But Dan Martell is flipping that on its head, and he's saying that you need to learn to actually just outsource to other people. He'll say things like, 80% done is 100% awesome, because you can then be spending that time with family and friends. So he then builds his brand around that and actually sells software services and AI services to people. So it's pretty powerful. Unfortunately, the reality is that fear of loss or wasting time is actually stronger than the desire for gain. However, get this. The most successful brands often just have a villain or external conflict. The villain might be the economy or AI or the system, right? I mean, I think it's really important that whatever you stand for, that you do make it positive. Packaging that does this simply just seems to be outperforming the rest. I like to call this candy on the outside, vegetables on the inside. Yes, the reality is that people click off of emotions. However, at the end of the day, you can disguise yourself as entertainment, but ultimately try to make an impact on at least one person. Okay, now it's getting exciting. Now for tier 4, the maximum impact. The first one I'm calling the live experiment effect. Over 80% of the top performing videos utilize a proven trendy format focusing on real-time transformation and challenges with constraints. Again, you can kind of see this here. I've had to put a lot of effort into this video, guys, for the one viewer who might watch this. We see this a lot with a transformational or case study type video. I tried starting a 3D printing business in 7 days. Why does this work? Well, it aligns with this idea that YouTube is a show don't tell platform. Again, people are not coming here just to hear you share information that they can go to AI to. They're actually really coming here for entertainment, but they're leaving wanting to start their next business, right? Like, you have to inspire them to make change. However, here's the reality. This format requires actual execution and documented results, but it delivers the highest viral peaks and establishes ultimate credibility through demonstrated proof rather than just promised outcomes. Okay, now that you've made it this far into the video, first of all, thank you. Second of all, here's a reward. We're going to go over a quick study that was done recently that looked over 62 billion views. I'm going to give you the top best takeaways that I got from it as well. Okay, the first one. How long are these videos? Well, over 50% of them were actually under 15 minutes. But that doesn't necessarily mean that shorter equals better. If you look closely at this platform, and I'm making a video about this soon, if you've been paying close attention, the longer you can get someone to watch, it's actually the more likely they are to want to follow you and appreciate your values and obviously eventually want to support you and buy from you. For videos under an hour, the sweet spot from this study seemed to be 15 to 25 minutes. However, videos that were over an hour long tended to perform better. The longer the videos, the stronger the recommendations, and the more likely they are to, again, support you. How about titles? Well, the shorter your titles, the better, full stop. Long titles were seen to increase cognitive load, slow decision making, and feel less confident. I'm talking 30 characters long. I know that's really hard to pull off, but that got nearly 60% more views than titles that were over 70 characters. Ideally, you don't ever really want to be doing more than 55 because people simply just can't see it on their home screens and especially on their mobiles. What's interesting is that while 84% of the videos featured text in the thumbnail, those without performed 19% better. You want to try and convey a very powerful thumbnail and story and open curiosity without showing a bunch of different things. Because again, it's cognitive load. And this is probably by far the most interesting takeaway that I've heard in the past few months about this platform. But 35% of the videos included numbers in their titles. However, videos with numbers got 11% fewer views on average. Numbers often signaling lists, explainers, or tutorials. Viewers click more for emotion, not structure. So maybe after all this, I should have documented the entire journey of me collecting the data set before revealing the takeaways at the end, rather than just giving it all out. Anyways, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.